Oh seven. What's up, midget cow? Uh, my day has been a pain in the ass. All I've really done was like edit this morning and then like train AI for a bit, but that's not the rough part. The rough part was mowing the lawn, which kind of sucks because it's a fucking swamp. But I wa- I waited as long as I could to uh to mow it so it would dry out, but it's getting too long. We've had so much rain lately and like some big storms. So I was like, fuck it, I just got to do it. I have a pretty big yard up here, but I only have a push mower. So it takes me like 4 hours. That's including like cleanup, sweeping off the sidewalk, and I have a push broom, but it's only like this wide, so it takes me forever to broom off the sidewalk and the driveway, and I'm absolutely beat. I've just been sitting around. I haven't done manual labor quite like that since last summer, because even while I've been renovating the room and stuff, like painting, changing electricity. That's all on a whole other scale of pushing a push mower through mud for 4 hours, 3.5 hours, and then using a push broom for 30 minutes. Uh, where are you at these days? I'm in Erie. I've been generally keeping it kind of low key, say in a more rural area of PA instead of Pittsburgh, but I don't care at this point. I'm in Erie. Erie's a big area. We're not gonna say specifically where in Erie, but that's just the closest big town. I'm gonna eat some food and then probably call it a night. I was gonna specifically like not even stream. That's how beat I am. Just I kind of want to watch that. Uh I wasn't even gonna stream. I was just gonna eat and go to sleep. But I was like, at the very least, I'm gonna do this. So I don't know how I feel about this anymore. Like, I lost so much respect for Phil DeFranco on the last show because he didn't represent the Shiloh Hendricks situation properly. That I don't know if I can trust anything he says anymore. Like, it's ridiculous because I'm wondering what spin he's putting on everything, because he he framed the Shiloh Hendricks thing as a solely racist opportunism situation, but it's more appropriately framed as a response to the racism in the Anthony Carmelo situation. The the Shiloh Hendricks would have never raised so much money for calling a young black guy the N word if Carmelo Anthony didn't raise just as much money or that much money before she did for stabbing a white guy at a track meet. And it's absolutely insane that he didn't mention it at all, especially because most of the donations originally, before they blocked comments on the Shiloh Hendricks situation, were all about justice for whatever his name is, the kid. I can't think right now. Austin Metcalf, I think, something like that. It is absolutely insane. I don't feel like I can trust anything I hear from Phil anymore, but I want to give him one more chance. He does commentary at the end. Let's see if there's a comment. If he talks about that, we will resubscribe. I've unsubscribed, but this video still showed up. If he doesn't address the situation, because I left a comment about it and I'm sure other people did, if he doesn't address the situation, we're just gonna stop watching the Phil DeFranco show entirely. I'm just over it. I've been a fan of this guy for so long, but there are certain situations where I felt like he wasn't really, primarily when it comes to firearms, like giving an accurate representation of things. And because the entire internet has been talking about this Shiloh Hendricks situation, I know a lot about it, and I know distinctly that what he reported wasn't exactly the truth. So now I don't know if I can trust him in regards to anything anymore. But we're just gonna watch, and I'm probably gonna be too tired to really comment much. I'm gonna eat my hot dogs, and I find this so ironic that this, you can see that, right? Yeah, that this is his fucking thumbnail, because in his last video he committed a massive lie of omission, which is one of the most important lies, which is so ironic because so many times I've gone into this conversation of the difference between how the right lies and the left lies, and I say the left lies by not telling you things you need to know, and that's exactly what he did. It's so fucked up.
The Dave Portnoy.
I have the headphones going in the wrong section. I'm just not coming out of my headphones. There we go.
Barstool F the Jews situation is crazy, has sparked mass outrage, but also divided the internet for a few different reasons. Senator Chris Murphy joins the show to talk about why and how he's going after Trump right now.
This is, as I said, probably the most massive corruption of the White House in the history of the country.
The Newark airport meltdown was actually worse than we knew. And then a good light news story to help keep you sane. We're talking about all that and much more on today's brand new Philip DeFranco show. You daily dive into the news.
This is your last chance, Phil.
Reacting to it, starting with this.
I lost so much respect for you. It's insane. I hope you address it.
So this whole situation, it starts at Barstool Sansom Street in Center City, Philadelphia, where notably you can order a customizable sign to be carried to your table along with bottle service. And on Saturday, a video was posted online of a server carrying a sign saying "fuck the Jews" on it, which then, unsurprisingly, sparked a lot of reactions online, with people demanding to know how this happened, why the server agreed to it, and why the managers allowed it. And then you had a lot of people wanting a response to the situation from Dave Portnoy, the founder of Barstool Sports, who is notably Jewish. And respond he did, with him posting a video on X saying,
there was a sign yesterday that said "the Jews." I've been shaking. I've been so mad for the last 2 hours.
With Dave going on to say that he was working on tracking down everyone involved, that the two waitresses responsible for the table had already been fired, and that he spoke to the people who actually ordered the sign.
I've talked to one of the two guys who did it. He's like, "I'm not anti-Semitic." He's basically crying to me. And I'm just like, I don't buy it for a second. Who the would do that sign in my bar? You think I'm just going to sit here? I'm going to make it my mission to put you in lights. My mission. Kid's crying. I just hung up on his ass. I go, I'm giving you 1 hour. 1 hour. 2 kids go to Temple. Tell me, how do I make this right before I go ape shit? You want to take anti-Semitism classes? You want to do whatever? You make it feel right. I don't need your tears.
Then, in an update later on Sunday, you had Dave posting another video, a bit calmer this time, saying,
my initial reaction was like, I'm going to burn these people to the ground, their families, everything. And it's like, you know what? Maybe that's not the best course of action. Maybe I can use this as a teaching moment.
With him then going on to say that he was going to send them on a tour of Auschwitz in Poland.
But I talked to both the culprits who I know are super involved in it, talked to the families. I'm sending these kids to Auschwitz. They've agreed to go, and they're going to do a tour of the concentration camps in Germany and hopefully learn something, and maybe like their lives aren't ruined and they think twice, and more importantly, other people like, see, it's not just like words you're throwing around. So to me, that's a fair outcome of this event.
They then also went on to say that the waitresses were fired and that they acted alone. In fact, saying that one of the girls pressured the other into it and neither of them went to discuss it with the manager. With the bar also saying in a
That's
statement that they are, quote, saddened, embarrassed, and frustrated by the deplorable actions of a customer and misguided staff. And adding that the staff in question went against their training and that their establishment has a zero tolerance policy for hate and discrimination. And with that, they close by saying, we deeply apologize for the role we played in allowing hate speech to transpire. This unfortunate incident is the opposite of what we stand for, and we will be doubling down on efforts to prevent such actions in the future. We also saw that the police are investigating.
I don't get why they would
the
even
two
allow
students at
that.
Temple University who are involved or under investigation, with an unnamed one of them being suspended. And the school promising that anyone else found to be involved, quote, will face strict disciplinary action, including possible expulsion. With the university president saying in the strongest terms possible, let me be clear, anti-Semitism is abhorrent. It is no place at Temple, and acts of hatred and discrimination against any person or persons are not tolerated at this university. But then with all this, we saw not everyone was on board with Dave's decision here. You had many saying that Dave sending these people on an all expenses paid trip to Poland is an punishment. And this is, you had people just kind of criticizing Barstool.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, wait, so they're getting a European vacation for saying that shit? I don't know if that's going to have the effect he wants it to. I've been to Auschwitz, by the way. It's pretty creepy. You can feel the weight of it, but it was like, I don't mean this in a dark way. It was like cool, creepy, and it, like a weird, like you're standing in an area where so much history happened. There was a lot of information there where you could learn about everything. So hopefully it has some positive effect. But at the same time, I loved every minute of my... Was it Auschwitz or was it a different prison camp? It might have been a different prison camp. Because I went to Germany specifically. Where is... It's weird though, because... I don't know if we actually went into Poland. I don't think we did. So let's see. Concentration camp museum. Yeah, I don't think I went to Auschwitz specifically. I think it was one of these other ones, because I was in Germany. And that's Poland. Oh, it was this one. The Dachau concentration camp memorial, I'm pretty sure. Because we went to Munich. Or it could have been Salzgitter, because we stayed in Berlin. So it was one of these two. Because we stayed in Berlin and we visited Munich for a day. That was back when I was very young, in high school. So I don't specifically remember which one it was. But it was creepy. I don't know how... Like I said, though, I enjoyed every minute of my trip to Germany, though. So I don't know... It depends on the type of person, right? I believe positive reinforcement is absolutely the way to go. But there are some people, especially these days, that are just going to take everything you give to them and never grow up and just see it as an excuse to be able to get more from the world without giving anything in return. So that's what I'm worried about specifically. But I do want to say good on what's his face? I don't remember his name. The Barstool Sports guy for taking the high road, you know? Hopefully it has a positive effect. I absolutely 100% am a huge free speech component, but I also say freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences. Whether or not they should be expelled from Temple or suspended, that's another question entirely. I kind of have mixed feelings on that one, but the whole bar doing that, especially when the owner is Jewish, is really fucked up, because as a business owner, you have your own rights. And so it's like someone's free speech if they want to say that shit, but it's also your right as a business to deny creating that sign for them. So that those waitresses absolutely deserve to be fired, 100%. That's just, especially if it goes against their company policy to create any kind of sign like that. Yeah, that should have never happened.
Barstool Sports itself, saying things like, a fuck the Jews sign is obvious hate speech, but you won't get me to look past the fact that Barstool Sports has spent like a decade spreading dumbass middle school SEC-style racism, sexism, transphobia, etc. all over the internet, only to draw the line at anti-Semitism. Great stuff. Which also,
that's just reductive.
Like that, and
it's so dumb to say shit like that.
Against a reporter who had asked him questions along that same line.
She starts like, okay, fine enough.
I bet you that person that made that tweet says all kinds of terrible things about people too.
Asking questions about the bar, how did it happen, responsibility, blah, blah, blah. And then she shifts. And then she does what a media scumbag does. She's like, well, she pulls a quote out of her ass from like, I don't even know, a made-up journal, some professor at like the Sportocratic University of something. It's like they say that Barstool Sports creates a culture of harassment and that basically I'm responsible for this happening at my own bar.
With Portnoy also including footage of him getting heated with the reporter. But that is not where the story ends, because yesterday you had Dave posting another video saying that one of the people who was involved here completely changed his tune and is no longer taking accountability for his action. Or with Dave saying shit. Saw a now deleted post from one of the people that
it's not like I called that or anything.
When accepting responsibility and deciding to go to Auschwitz. With Dave saying that he called them and that on that call they claimed that he didn't have anything to do with it and that he felt pressured into admitting that he did. And so you had Dave deciding to rescind his offer to send him on a trip to Poland.
Buddy, what are you doing? I'm like trying to make this a teachable moment, throw a lifeline to a kid. He's like, well, I already got suspended from Temple because you got a fuck the Jews sign at a bar and posted it on social media. What don't you get about that? Maybe if you actually learn a life lesson, maybe if people watch you go to Poland and seem like you're changed, this gets behind you. But now, no, I'm not going to send him now.
Right, and as of now, we don't know what the status is for the other person that Dave offered to send to Poland. You know, what's been interesting is this has been playing out is just the reactions online. Because just generally speaking, people kind of landed in one of three aisles. One, people that loved what Dave said and his kind of idea for how to resolve the situation. Two, people that found the idea of them going to Auschwitz as kind of just not far enough, more of almost like rewarding them with a free trip. And then you had a third group that was saying that Dave Portnoy was actually engaging in cancel culture, that he was going after and trying to ruin the lives of college students. You know, the reactions have been
that's the stupidest thing I've heard
on the internet. So, you know, as we wait to see how this continues to play out, I've got to pass the
question. Of course, I was in neither of those groups. That's par for the course for me. I just don't fit in or belong anywhere.
Specifically, I'm talking about the mayhem happening over at Newark Liberty International Airport in New Jersey. Because as you may have heard or even experienced,
Newark is so
recently,
fucked.
There's been hundreds of delays and cancellations affecting.
I used to have to take a bus connection there sometimes when I was taking the bus, and yeah, you don't leave the bus terminal. Newark is one of those cities you just get through it as fast as possible. It sucks for all these people.
affecting thousands of customers for the past 2 weeks, with us seeing inbound flights Tuesday morning getting delayed by over 2.5 hours on average and up to 5 hours, though on previous days they've seen as high as 10 hours. Right, and there are several reasons for the chaos, but we've now just learned what for many is the most shocking one. Namely, that on Monday, April 28th, sources say that screens in the air traffic control tower, they literally went dark. Air traffic controllers could not see, hear, or talk to the incoming planes reportedly for about 60 to 90 seconds, with reports saying that they were controlling around 15 to 20 flights at the moment everything shut down.
That's
This pilot
insane.
repeatedly asked, "Approach, are you there?" You could hear the controllers struggling to reestablish contact.
They lost 3 radar scopes went black. They lost all the radios at approach. Just got told that approach lost all their radars. 3 of their 4 radar screens went black, and they have no frequencies.
We lost our radar, and it's not working correctly. And we don't have a radar, so I don't know where you are.
Now, as for what went wrong, you had Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy telling Fox News that controllers had lost the primary communication and that the backup line didn't immediately take over. And this, as other reports said that a piece of copper wire fried, leading Chuck Schumer to ask,
did they ever hear of fiber optics over there at the FAA?
And now, in the wake of this incident, you have CNN reporting that at least 5 controllers took 45 days of medical leave because the experience was traumatic, with then the FAA confirming this and adding, while we cannot quickly replace them due to this highly specialized profession, we continue to train controllers who will eventually be assigned to this busy airspace. Now with this, I want to note, while 5 people may not sound like a lot, according to United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby, that's over 20% of the controllers at Newark, with him also saying, keep in mind, this particular air traffic control facility has been chronically understaffed for years, and without these controllers, it's now clear, and the FAA tells us, that Newark Airport cannot handle the number of planes that are scheduled to operate there in the weeks and months ahead. And this is—
if you don't know, being an air traffic controller is already one of the most stressful jobs possible. It just fucks you up hardcore.
Characterize the workers taking leave as them walking off the job, which is something the controllers union did not like. With one source telling CNN the controllers didn't just
gross.
walk off the job.
That is absolutely gross. Do you really want someone controlling a whole bunch of planes with hundreds of people's lives at stake when they're not in proper mental shape to do so because literally everything went wrong while they had thousands of people's lives? Hundreds or thousands of people's lives. 20 planes, they said. It could easily be thousands of, 15 to 20 planes, I think they said. Could easily be thousands of people's lives that they had in their hands. And all that bullshit went wrong, and nothing was working. Let those dudes take some time off, go get some therapy, and come back fresh. Because if you don't, mistakes are going to happen, and then people might actually die. So saying that they walked off the job is utter bullshit. I'm not like a huge union fan. I feel like, as we've seen with the SAG-AFTRA stuff lately, they generally just end up being worse than the corporations themselves sometimes. But I have to agree with the union on this one.
Job. They were traumatized. Their equipment failed. It's written in the regulations, if they experience a traumatic event, they can take time off to go see a psychiatrist. The people working that day did that. But whatever your opinion there is a clear thing, and that this only worsens an already dire situation for the FAA. Because you have the union pointing out that the nationwide shortage of controllers, it's nearly the worst it's been in 30 years. With the controllers who remain describing how they're stressed, burnt out, frequently taking overtime. Hell, one Newark employee even told NBC flatly, "It is not safe." With then reporter Tom Costello adding, really an incredible statement unsolicited. He just said that to me, and separately, don't fly into Newark, avoid Newark at all costs. And as if the air traffic control situation wasn't enough, construction work's currently being done on one of the runways, closing it down until mid-June, which then leaves them with only 2 operational runways, but even those aren't guaranteed because severe weather was expected to hit the tri-state area on Tuesday. And so then with all this, you had Chuck Schumer taking the opportunity to call out the White House and demand accountability.
Keeping the flying public safe and our national airspace efficient is the responsibility of Donald Trump's FAA. They're failing spectacularly. So today, I am demanding a full Inspector General Office investigation.
I hate when people say the tri-state area. There's like 5 tri-state areas. What 3 states are you talking about, bro?
Into what happened at Newark, so these problems do not get worse or spread to other airports around the nation.
And with this, I do want to note that Sean Duffy agrees that the system is broken and needs massive reform.
The system that we're using in air traffic control, it's incredibly old. This system is 25, 30 years old. We use floppy disks. We use copper wires.
We're about 3,000 air traffic controllers
Floppy disks
short right now.
With him saying that back in March, his department bumping Academy student pay.
Kids these days don't even know what those are.
Process and prioritizing applicants who score highest on the entrance exam. And that's in addition to them now announcing plans to give all new graduates from the Academy a $5,000 bonus, give bonuses to controllers willing to work at harder to fill locations, and give bonuses to controllers who work past their retirement age. And then actually, on top of that, his department will announce a plan to modernize the air traffic control system this Thursday. So a big thing there is that Duffy said that the rollout, it might take 3 to 4 years to complete. And then I've got more news for you in just a moment, but first,
I'm
real
sure
talk,
that's a
I
lot
thought
of
that I was
stuff
on
they have
top
to
of my
replace.
finances, but that's until Rocket Money called me out. I just had so many random
I don't
subscriptions
give a
still
shit.
charging me /PDS. But then this is the biggest scandal in the history of the presidency. That is how Senator Chris Murphy has repeatedly described Trump's meme coin, which he says is a conduit for bribery. And today he actually came on the show.
Yeah, I've
to talk
heard
to
of
us
this.
about his new legislation that he
I
just introduced,
didn't
and
like this
he
whole
and many
thing
others believe
at all
is
from the
blatant
beginning.
Corruption. I kind of want to jump straight into the topic of the day, and that is that, you have called Trump's meme coin the biggest scandal in the history of the presidency, which is a pretty bold claim. So
I don't know about that. That is insane. I think there's been way worse things that happened that presidents have done, like Watergate, for example. But I think it's definitely an impeachable offense because there's an annulments clause, or it's called, and basically the president isn't supposed to be able to take bribes, but if you're paying a bunch of money into a meme coin that's owned by the president so you can go have dinner with him, and if you end up being one of those top 25 people, you even get like a conversation with him. You're literally paying the president for access to the president. That's definitely pretty fucked up.
Through what's happened, how does it work, why is it a problem ripe for abuse, right? Because we've seen defenders of Trump coin arguing, it's just the newest wave of marketing. It is a new way to show support, like a political expression. It's the free market doing free market things. And some have even argued if it is all about the money, it's actually transparency in fundraising.
Yeah, I guess.
I think we need to take the money
you
out
need
of
to show
politics,
support
not
for
put
your
more money
mayor
into
is to hand him a
politics.
check for $10 million, and on your way out, ask him if he might pave your road. That's a way to show support for him, but it's fundamentally corrupt. We don't allow
Unless we
elected
find a way to
officials
get the
make
money out of
through the
politics,
back door,
America's going to
especially in
self-destruct.
exchange for favors and for favorable treatment from the federal government. That's exactly what's happening here. So meme coin that Donald Trump is issuing.
This country's lying on its
Are
deathbed.
just mechanisms by which individuals quietly, privately, secretly can send money to Donald Trump, a couple bucks or tens of millions of
And
dollars,
don't think
and
the
then they can
Democrats are any
show up at
better.
the White House
They do
and
the
ask
same
for their
thing.
favor, and
Fucking
we know that
Harris
Donald Trump tells us that they are going
wasted
to
more
much
money
better treatment
in a
than
political
folks who are not
campaign
paying
than has
Donald
ever
Trump
happened
off.
in the
meme
history of
coin
the
is
wo-
worse than
and of the
nothing,
United States.
Right? It has no independent value. But it is clearly a way, as we speak, that people who have interest before the federal
They're
government
all just
are
evil,
trying to
greedy
impact
pieces of
Trump's
shit.
policy,
And I don't
both
understand
in
why
income
you
and the stable
keep
coin.
supporting
The
these
trucking
people.
company CEO just announced publicly that they were going to buy $20 million of Trump coin because they believe that that was the best way for them to get what they want from the Trump administration. The foreign government of the United Arab Emirates just announced that they were going to conduct a sizable chunk of business in Trump coin because they believe that that's the best way
That's
to get
like
favorable
especially
treatment as a
bad
nation
because
from the Trump administration. This has
you're
never
not
ever happened
supposed to
before in the
have
history
like
of the country. We've
foreign
never allowed
agents.
for foreign governments, CEOs, corporations to just send money to the president of the United States in order to try to impact policy. It's fundamentally corrupt, and it's kind of unbelievable that it's not already specifically illegal, but the piece of legislation we're introducing today would make it specifically illegal.
Well, so I guess that's a question. Do you know for certain that Trump is personally profiting from this? And if so, at what level? Or is that kind of impossible to tell from the holdings? Because reports, have noted that 80% of the coin is held by Trump-linked entities. And Trump has said in an interview over the weekend that, he wasn't profiting from anything when asked about the meme coin, that he hasn't even really looked at the profits from crypto. So is there anything concrete?
That just sounds like a straight up lie.
Oh, he's lying. He lies about a lot of stuff. But no, Donald Trump and his family, right, are the main investors in the company that is issuing the stable coin and the meme coin. So Trump absolutely stands to benefit personally, whether he gets that money now or after he is out of the Oval Office. He benefits personally and financially from the sale of the meme coin and the stable coin. How he makes money off the meme coin is a little complicated, right? He sort of sells portions of the overall allotment, and he gets paid by the exchanges when he sells those allotments. But then every time that there is a transaction of existing coin, he also gets a payment as well. All of those payments are made to a company that Trump and his family have the controlling interest in, and thus it is a very clear mechanism by which individuals can send money
I think they made
directly to Donald
$2
Trump.
million in trading fees.
Specifically, what exactly
just
does it do?
From the trading that's been done since he announced
or will it
the access
force
through the
Trump
dinner
and his family to give up whatever stake they have? How exactly would this work for the situation at hand now, as well as moving forward?
Yeah, I do think it's important to acknowledge that what Trump is doing already is illegal. So there's a specific provision of the U.S. Constitution, what's called the Emoluments Clause.
Emoluments,
Weird
not
word,
annulments.
but it's a pretty simple concept.
I'm so tired.
The President of the United States is not allowed to profit off of his office.
That's like for a
to
marriage.
Use the powers of the presidency in order to enrich himself. That's like exactly what he's doing. One of the things he announced 2 weeks ago was that he's actually going to give private tours of the White House to the top 25 buyers of his crypto coin. There is no...
He actually took that down off his website. It now just says a private tour and doesn't specifically include the website, the White House. But
to induce people to send you money personally. But that's exactly what he's doing. But there isn't a specific statute.
Which is more misinformation we're getting from Phil. It's not looking good, Phil.
Member of Congress cannot issue.
It's true that it was up there.
Cannot market that coin, in part because all this is pretty new. We haven't regulated the industry writ large, so we haven't had anything specific.
It has been taken down.
Or not it's okay for members of Congress.
I don't trust Phil at all
that
anymore, which is a shame. I really hope he addresses
says that if you're the president or you're a senior member of the administration,
the stuff
or
in the comments.
You cannot,
because I know there had to be more people than me
be a owner of a company
that commented on that video asking why he didn't talk about the real reason the Shiloh Hendricks stuff happened.
In order to
and if he doesn't
off of this
mention that at all,
so, let's
we're just done watching Phil videos.
The question of do you think this actually has a shot of being enacted is, I guess, separate from it. But let's say it does get through. To go back to the question,
people make mistakes,
actually
right?
Strip or force Trump.
Maybe
and his
he
family
didn't
to divest
do
in some way, or
good enough research, or he didn't personally feel
so it wouldn't.
It was that important.
Any profits Trump has already,
because he does have like a kind of limited perspective of things sometimes,
and his family,
but.
If
he doesn't acknowledge it at all, then it indicates he was probably intentionally trying to hide the truth, which I just won't be able to trust anything he says anymore.
The individual, the member of Congress, or the president, but also to their spouse and to their immediate family members. So yeah, this would end the corruption if it passed. And listen, I can't tell you whether it has a shot. I certainly understand that Republicans are lining up with the president, but I think day by day, the public is sort of getting turned on to this scheme. I was kind of amazed that when he rolled it out a few months ago, really nobody was paying attention. But I do now sort of pick up in town halls and in my conversations back in Connecticut that my constituents seem to know a lot more about it. And so I think it'll be harder for Republicans to vote against this. Maybe not impossible, but I think it'll be harder for them to vote against it as both Republicans and Democrats out there in the country start to figure out that this is, as I said, probably the most massive corruption of the White House in the history of the country.
I don't think a lot of people care, because I don't think a lot of people understand the implications of it.
As far as maybe a polling cliff edge where there are people that you're able to peel back to actually vote on something like this. Because I think, there are a lot of Republicans that either overtly or secretly are scared to back a plan that would do anything negative to Trump or his family.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, obviously his approval ratings have moved very quickly over the past couple weeks. Now his approval ratings are hovering around 40%. I do think that that's the place at which some of his enablers and backers start to think twice about giving him carte blanche. I think when a president's approval ratings, especially this early, when you're normally still in your honeymoon period or below 40%, that makes it a little bit harder for your party's members to stay in line, especially on the most unpopular parts of the agenda. So I think there will be opportunities for Republicans to break with the tariff policy. There may be an opportunity for them to vote on this bill.
Those Republicans are going to be thinking about their own shots at election. Because that's the thing.
This bill is...
Politicians don't care about you at all. They just care about making money off of you and staying in power. So they're going to tell you whatever lies they need to stay in power so that they can keep becoming millionaires while you beg for scraps.
More broadly applicable than just the president, right? We're saying here, that no member of Congress should do this either. And, that allows somebody to vote for it and say, well, this isn't just about President Trump. It allows a Republican to say, I'm regulating
all
myself,
these Democrats get just as rich once they become a senator as the Republicans do.
We drafted the bill purposefully that way to make it, more, maybe more palatable for some of Trump's allies.
Are you aware of any of your colleagues in the Senate or the House that are actually holders of Trump coin?
That's a good
I'm
question.
sure. There have to be some.
That would have to be disclosed on your...
or maybe not, if it has... I feel like that.
So those are due this spring and this summer, so we may find out pretty soon.
Even if it has to be disclosed, it doesn't mean people are going to put it on there.
And obviously one of the big questions, is... how much inside information is trading about the coin? If you knew that Trump was about to send out a tweet,
there was a lot of information. Inside
always
information trading with that coin
inflates the value. You would then go out and buy a whole bunch of coin, and then you'd sell it an hour after the tweet. And so the opportunity for corruption when the president of the United States is pulling the strings on the value of a widely held asset, it's just limitless. So yeah, we want to know who holds it, and we want to see when they bought it, because if we find out that some members of Congress bought it right before Trump, for instance, sent out the notice that everybody was going to get a tour of the White House, if they bought it, that looks pretty freaking corrupt.
Right. And the last thing I'll ask, and it is connected to this, but it's a little bit of a departure, just regarding the efforts of contesting Trump and the future of the Democratic Party, post 2024, we've seen competing engagement strategies. You have people like, Gavin Newsom starting a podcast, and not exclusively, but bringing on big right wing and Trump voices to, I'd say, more hear out rather than debate. You have left-leaning leaders like AOC and Bernie Sanders getting a ton of traction with their Fighting Oligarchy tour and populist messaging. You have Pete Buttigieg hopping on podcasts to try to better communicate the moment, communicate Dem messaging, talk about the future. To your credit, we were talking, you came on our show 2.5 years ago, trying out different avenues. As someone that's in the thick of it, what do you make of the efforts? Do you see winning strategies, losing strategies?
I feel like Phil is almost just a political shill at this point
for Democrats to recover from the election. Because, and I know I'm going on a little rant here, but I know that David Hogg recently, the DNC vice chair, trying to shake things up, has argued we can't just be the party that's against Donald Trump. And as bad as Donald Trump's polling is right now, the Dems polling is kind of just really abysmal right now. What do you see as the winning strategies right now?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot there, right? But
I try to cram it in right at the end.
I think part of the reason the Democratic approval rating is really low is because Democrats are upset that Democrats aren't fighting hard enough against Trump. It's not necessarily because
that's not it at all.
Upset that we have.
Oh my God, these people are so stupid and egotistical. The reason Democrats are polling so low is because you're a bunch of greedy, egotistical, virtue signaling fucks that try to put down anyone that doesn't accept the message you're trying to force down their throats. And people don't want to be force-fed your bullshit anymore.
Unveiled a positive message. It's that they think that we're not stopping what Trump is doing.
My
basic theory of the case is this.
The fact that you lost so badly to Trump, of all people. Not only did you lose to Trump, but you lost worse than any other Democrat has lost to a president. You had the most massive election loss of all time against one of the biggest jokes of a president ever. Politics is a fucking sham in the United States.
Donald Trump floods the zone every day. And
these
Democrats
people are so fucking dumb. Why do you keep putting them in power?
The Democrats should sort of sit back and we shouldn't sound so alarmist, and we kind of have to reserve our political capital. And if we, are operating on 5-alarm status every single day, it just isn't credible. I don't believe that. I believe that the moment is urgent, and that if you aren't acting like it's urgent every single day, you actually are losing credibility. And I think that we have to be more prolific in the amount of communication we are doing. I was glad that Pete went on that podcast. There was a lot of risk there, but that was really important risk to take. People want to hear us speaking authentically. They want to hear us speak in a really unfiltered way. They want to hear that we're angry, right? And that doesn't often come across when we are vetting all of our communications through, consultants or pollsters. If we aren't
how'd your pollsters do? Because all your pollsters told you you were going to win the election by a landslide, and you lost it by a landslide.
And urgency. We have to be doing more communication than we're doing. We have to take risks. And if we do that, then I think we can meet the moment.
Senator Murphy, thank you for the time.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
And then I've got more news you need to know about in just a moment. Senator Murphy, thank you for the time.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
And then
apparently, Phil's name is Bridget now.
Then I think we can meet the moment.
Senator Murphy, thank you
watch
for the time.
Thanks, man. Appreciate
it.
And then
this is now the Bridget DeFranco show.
I travel to escape drama, not just to start a toxic relationship with myself. 15% off, travel smart. But then next up today, we knew that the IRS was getting gutted, but we now know to what extent. Because a little while back, congressional Democrats asked the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration to examine the Trump DOGE cuts to the agency, and it just released its findings, with it stating that through March, the IRS lost about 11% of its total workforce. But the really big thing is when it comes to specific types of workers, because there, the numbers are much, much higher. With most notably, 31% of all its auditors, or some 3,600 people, having reportedly resigned or been fired. And that is still far below what the Trump administration was aiming for, since a recent memo outlined plans to cut as much as 40% of all staff, not just auditors. The Treasury spokesperson even telling CBS News, the Biden administration grew the IRS from 79,431 to 102,309 personnel. Under new leadership, approximately the same number of employees have left the IRS, with a vast majority leaving voluntarily through the deferred resignation program. And then continuing, the rollback of wasteful Biden-era hiring surges and consolidation of critical support functions are vital to improve both efficiency and quality of service. But there, you have critics countering, saying the idea that of all the agencies, the IRS is wasteful or inefficient is ludicrous. Right, and according to the advocacy group Better IRS, every dollar spent on auditing the top 0.1% of earners, it returns about $26 to the federal government, which is why in early 2024, the IRS said it expected to collect over $500 billion more by 2034, thanks to increased funding from the Inflation Reduction Act. But now, thanks to the DOGE cuts, the agency could collect $320 $23 billion less in revenue over the coming decade, according to the Yale Budget Lab, which is what you have critics arguing is exactly the point here. But with the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities recently writing, the haphazard slapdash nature of the layoffs does not reflect an effort to deliver services more efficiently or perform government functions more effectively. Instead, it appears to be a means of preventing those services or functions from being provided in the first place. And this is you've got Emily DeVito, a former Treasury advisor and now senior advisor on economic policy at Groundwork Collaborative, telling CBS that's exactly what will happen. But they're saying you lose the very staff trained to keep high-end taxpayers and corporate taxpayers in compliance, and adding, you can see some behavioral effects when taxpayers, especially those that really don't want to pay their bills, come to accept there is very little risk to not paying at all or even filing. And so now with tax filing season over, you have analysts saying we can expect to see more cuts soon. This also is recent polling on the popularity of the DOGE cuts has been less than favorable for the Trump administration, with, for example, the Partnership for Public Services surveying Americans a couple of weeks ago and finding that nearly 2/3 are concerned about the loss of experience and knowledge from the workforce. And that notably including 85% of Democrats, 63% of independents, and even 44%.
Wait, who ran the poll?
That notably including that administration, with, for example, the Partnership for Public Services surveying Americans a couple of weeks ago and finding that nearly 2/3 are concerned about the loss of experience and knowledge from the workforce. And that notably including 85%.
That sounds like it would be a sort of biased poll, to be honest.
Even 44% of Republicans. But then next up,
like it's going to be pro-public servants because it's the Partner for Public Servants or whatever it was.
History, the candidate for chancellor has failed to win a majority in the first parliamentary vote. And while Friedrich Merz eventually got the votes, he's now starting his term weakened, all while the far-right party that's opposing him seemingly has the backing of the country that's long been Germany's most important ally, the United States of America. You know, with that, it's not just been today that things have been wild, it's been a turbulent few months in German politics. In February, national elections took place 7 months ahead of...
We have a video here called Germany Just Killed Democracy that I really want to watch at some point, but I think that's
due to the 2024 collapse
tomorrow.
Of the previous governing coalition, with Merz's center-right
I'm
Christian
exhausted.
Democratic Union, along with its sister party, the CSU, coming out on top with around 29% of the vote. And since then, he's been trying to...
Hey man, question, you got any skins lying around in Eve you might want to get rid of? Yeah, I've got loads of skins. I'd have to install it and see if I can get it to work on Linux though, because I'm on Linux now. But yeah, I could send you some skins. Eve. The crazy thing is Eve used to support Linux, but it doesn't anymore. That one's 2024. What year is this? 2 years ago. Let's go to 2024. Does it want to load? I guess we're not going to get an answer. For whatever reason, Reddit is... Oh, there we go. Okay. Shaka. Bro. This is so good. This is a Star Trek reference. Shaka. When the walls fell. Temba. His arms wide. Oh my god. Cool. So apparently we can run it the same way I run WoW, which is, it's probably even easier. I can install it through Steam. I forgot that Eve is on Steam. I never played it through Steam because Steam used to give me all kinds of problems with the Eve launcher. Well, it's not that I never played it. It's that I stopped playing it on Steam. I still have like 1,000 hours on Steam. But try to do some skin collecting lately? Yeah, I could definitely help you out. I was kind of collecting them. I did start selling off a lot because the last few times I played, I was trying to afford Plex, but Plex got too expensive to the point where it's not even worth playing unless you're gonna sub, and the sub is more expensive now too, and the game quality is worse. So no matter how you spin it, I feel like I'm paying more money for a lower quality game than the game I played 10 years ago. So it's like, why would I pay $5 extra when the game feels like it's worth $5 less, you know? If they were to drop the sub down to $10, I'd play again. No, I probably still wouldn't. I've got other games that I enjoy so much more these days. It's over 6 mil each now. Yeah, it's like 3 billion or something like that, if I remember correctly. Or maybe I'm just doing the math wrong. But it's ridiculous to Plex an account. It's just absolutely insane. There's no reason. All they're doing is catering to fucking botters and whales. Oh, we need to get together too and play. Yeah, we could definitely play WoW, bro. I'm doing that hardcore grind right now. I don't know if you're a classic hardcore player, but I do have a retail character. It can do dungeons. I haven't played it in like 3 years though, maybe. At like 2 years. It's hard to know. I never got to 60, but I have a mount. It's a warlock. Orc warlock. So you better be horde. For the horde. I don't do classic hardcore, but I do. Oh, I have normal classic. My characters are on Dream Scythe, which is the realm Doomhowl go once you die. Like, you can move your characters to Dream Scythe for free. I don't know what realm you're on, but yeah, we can definitely do some WoW. I'm not playing any WoW tonight. I'm just exhausted from all the yard work. I'm covered in mud. There's tire tracks in my yard, and it's basically just like a swamp, and I slipped and I fell into one of the tire tracks, and I went like up to my ankle in mud. I wonder if I can show you guys. Yeah, the whole leg is drenched in mud. It was rough. I'm just exhausted. I don't have the energy to game at all today. I barely had the energy to stream, but I was like, well, I gotta eat food anyways before I go to sleep. So we'll go live for a little bit and see what happens. But yeah, oh, I'm definitely going to, as soon as I'm done with this. I was just so hungry. I was out there like 2 or 3 hours into it, and my stomach was just rumbling at me, being like, you basically had nothing but coffee today. Put food in me. So I was like, okay, fine. Food was the first priority. And I was like, well, we can stream while we eat, and then we'll call it after that. But we got to finish this video now.
Party, which notably led the previous governing coalition before its collapse, and then turned in its worst election performance in more than a century, taking 3rd place with just over 16% of the vote. And then, you know, the far-right anti-immigrant party, Alternative for Germany, or AFD, it came in 2nd with almost 21% of the vote, and that notably after being publicly endorsed by Elon Musk. And a key thing is that since February, its poll numbers have risen as some voters seemingly have taken issue with the CDU working with the SPD. In fact, in April, you saw AFD topping a major poll for the first time ever. And then, with all this, last week you had the country's domestic intelligence agency designating the party as a confirmed right-wing extremist force, meaning that officials can now use informants and other tools such as audio and video recordings to monitor its activities nationwide. And then beyond that, the designation is fueling a long-running debate on whether to ban the AFD under German laws intended to prevent a repeat of the country's Nazi past. Right, and that is members of the Trump administration have now weighed in, with, for example, Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying in a post on X, "That's not democracy, it's tyranny in disguise," and adding what is truly extremist.
So I guess that's what
popular
that other
AFD, but
video is
rather
about.
The establishment's deadly open border immigration policies at the AFD.
We're gonna watch that other video and get real truth though, because I don't fucking trust anything Phil says right now.
He
We'll
wasn't alone.
see
You also had Vice President J.D. Vance sharing that post and
if
echoing the
he
sentiment, but then on the other
addresses
side,
the
the
issue in
German Foreign Office
commentary.
replying
If
to
he
Rubio
doesn't,
saying, this is
the
democracy.
last
This
Phil
decision is the
DeFranco
result of a
video we're
thorough
gonna
and
watch. And
independent
next
investigation
time
to protect
he
our
pops up
Constitution
in my
and rule of law.
recommended, I'm gonna
Continue.
say,
It is
don't show me
independent
this
courts that
channel
will have the
anymore.
final say. We have learned from
Because
our history
he
that
feels like
right-wing
he's just
extremism needs to be
a
stopped.
leftist
And with
shill
all
at
that,
this point.
week you had Mertz's CDU, CSU union, and the SPD
I want
finally getting around to
actual,
setting aside
real,
differences largely to counter AFD
relatively
as they signed a
unbiased
coalition, which
news.
hypothetically
But
gives Mertz
I don't know if that
350
exists
votes back
anymore.
as chancellor,
It's like
which is
no
why
matter
we're
where
in
you
the
go,
60
everyone's
and
trying to
630 seat
push
parliament.
one
But what we
side
saw
or
is
the
that
other
when
down
vote
your
took
throat.
place this morning, he only ended up with 310. With 9 of the 630 MPs absent, 3 abstaining, and another ballot paper being declared invalid. But that also meant that at least a few members of his own coalition outright voted against him. Since the vote is by secret ballot, it could have been anyone. And this is reportedly not everyone in the SPD was happy with the decision to form a coalition, but party officials were adamant that their members were fully committed to it. You had the party's co-leader, for example, telling MPs that he had not the slightest indication that the SPD was not completely behind Mertz, and adding, we can be counted on. Though, of course, with the mess, you had the AFD gleeful, and they called for new elections with the party's leader writing on social media. This demonstrates the weak foundation on which the small coalition between the CDU, CSU, and
She
the
kind of
SPD
looks
is
like a
built. But then
Nazi,
with that,
to be
under Germany's
honest.
constitution, there's no limit to how many votes can be held. So what we saw is that within a few hours, a second vote had already been lined up, and there you had Mertz winning with 325 votes. But I will say, at the same time, the AFD leader isn't completely wrong. For this new coalition, it appears to be extremely fragile, and Mertz, he's reportedly starting with one of the lowest approval ratings of any German leader in the modern era. And so, we're gonna have to wait to see what happens, but understand it feels very much
Bring
like this
back
situation
Angela
is
Merkel.
primed
She was
for
awesome.
some sort of chaos. If there's
Watch,
not
she
success
did
almost
something
right out of the
insane that I have no
next
idea
up from
about.
that, shifting gears to a different kind of news, let's talk
That
about
was-
this bodega owner that's giving kids free food and even
I want to know when she was in office, because that's the last time I really paid actual attention to international politics. I studied poli-sci in college, if you guys aren't familiar. Who is, we'll do who is. I don't know how I'm spelling that right. Oh yeah, I spelled it right. Was the Chancellor of Germany from, oh, she was there till 2021? That's insane. I didn't realize she was there that long. So I knew she was there in like 2010 through 2014, because that's when I was like still paying attention to that stuff. She was the first woman in the role and a key figure in European politics, known for her pragmatic leadership during crises like the 2008 financial meltdown. She fucked up all the rest of Europe because they got really mad at her. And it's not really her fault. But what happened is she made smart decisions for Germany during the 2008 financial meltdown. But since they're all on the euro, but they're all different countries, it really messed up the exchange rates and currency and economies over there. Like, the euro is kind of proving itself it was a terrible idea. And the European Union itself is just not in good shape. It hasn't been ever since Greece lied to get in. The European debt crisis and the migrant influx. Born 1954 in Hamburg, West Germany, she grew up in East Germany, earned a doctorate in quantum chemistry, and entered politics after the Berlin Wall fell. Her policies, like austerity in Europe and welcoming refugees, were polarizing but cemented her as a global influencer. Post-chancellorship, she retired from active politics but remains a respected figure. She was really cool. I don't follow politics. Crap PC needs started. Be right back. No worries, bro. We got 5 more minutes of this
Cash
at
for
least.
good
Hopefully
rate. You know, a little
your
human interest
PC
piece. So
isn't
this
so
is
crap
Wally.
that it takes
He's the
5
manager of
minutes to
Zach's
restart.
Finest Deli and Grocery in Staten Island. And 2 years ago, he made a bet with one of his regular customers, Zamir, who was 12 at the time. We're telling him that if he came in with good grades on his report card, that Wally would give him something from the store for free, with Wally saying, I wanted to help motivate him. And a few days later, Zamir came back with an 88% average and asked for an Oreo milkshake. And with permission from Zamir's parents, Wally shared the video on TikTok, and then a bunch of neighborhood kids started coming in. With Wally explaining, I couldn't just deny the rest of the kids. I started doing it for all the kids in the neighborhood, and he set up a system. Students with an average between 70 and 80%, they get $10 worth of free items, and those with 80% or higher, they get anything they want. And in fact, those with 90% or better, they get $100 in a free t-shirt. With Wally even rewarding kids who are bringing in improved grades and perfect attendance records. And then, again,
That's
with
pretty
their
cool.
parents' permission, Wally posts these videos of these kids and their rewards on TikTok, with some of his videos then going viral. And so we've seen one of the kids visiting Wally being a 11-year-old Russell Vincent, with him coming in with a 92.67% average, and he picked up a carton of eggs for his mom and a bunch of sweets for himself to celebrate. And Russ there, he's been bringing in his report card since the beginning of the school year, with his mom also chiming in that while he's always been a good student, Wally's encouragement has pushed Russell even further. And adding, I love it, I definitely think it's a good thing that he's doing. And we've also seen other parents echoing that sentiment, with, for example, the mom of an 8-year-old saying, my son wasn't doing badly, but he wasn't interested. And with Wally, it makes him want to go hard. And adding, what he's doing is amazing. He's making the kids
I
want
feel
to
like
do
that's
better,
on the
want to go
parents,
to
though.
school and want to get good grades. Right, at first, Wally was just paying for this project out of his own pocket,
So-
but as he's gained traction online, he made a website selling merch to help fund the effort, and eventually a GoFundMe that
So
raised
it's
nearly
really cool
$30,000,
Wally
with
is
him saying,
doing,
"Now I can
but
accept more
why
kids." It's a very big help. With him adding that he's got
is a
no intention of
random
stopping
bodega
him from
owner
slowing down, and he hopes that other people
being
do something similar in their
a
own
better
lives.
parent
He's
to
saying,
these
"I see the
kids
progress the kids make. It pushes them toward
than their
greatness.
own
It makes them
parents
feel
are.
really, really happy." So, yeah, just a nice little story of Wally being our BAMF of the day to give you a
He's
little
absolutely our
bit of the bear
BAMF of the
in
day,
otherwise
but there's like a
just
dark
heavy show. But then finally today, let's
underside
talk
to
about
that
y'all's
story
comments on yesterday's show
that
and
makes
some
me a little
comment commentary
sad.
Brought to you by
All right.
BeautifulBastard.com, and specifically Project BB28. Because depending on when you're watching this, you only have 24 to 36 hours left. Which, if you missed the announcement, BB28
Well,
is
you've got
all the
like
shirts that you've ever
3
wanted,
minutes
loved, but never
left,
got
Phil.
over at BeautifulBastard.com.
If you don't
Just for
address the
28 bucks a pop.
issues
Think of BB28 as
with
the from rack to Beautiful Bastard
yesterday's
Tons of
episode,
people love and
then
custom cut and sewn
we're
Beautiful
done,
Bastard
bro,
shirts
until
made
you
with our
grow the
premium
fuck up
quality cotton
and
spandex.
start
Genuinely
doing
way
some
better
honest
than the best
reporting, if
Midwest
that ever
brand out there
happens.
for under $100. I know I'm not alone.
I've
there. You know,
noticed-
the clothing business, it does very well. People love. And
I think
buy
it's
all
the
sorts of
political
stuff. I also
stuff
know that the
that's
prices
getting
of
to 'em.
Beautiful Bastard, it
Everyone's
pisses people off,
getting
and that is
polarized,
testing Project
and I'm
BB28
getting like,
till Wednesday at midnight. Right, they're different. We're making these
I'm
shirts
getting
that are not
polarized
Beautiful Bastard
too.
but they're still very soft.
Radicalized is the word. I'm getting radicalized too, but just in the opposite way, where I'm more of like, fuck everyone now. And most people are like, oh, well, fuck those guys or fuck those other guys. It's like, no, fuck all of you.
They're also, I will say, lighter, which I think is perfect because we're going into summertime. Also, don't worry, it's not Gildan
Okay.
quality acting off. Get it now. Because like I mentioned, at Wednesday at midnight, I'm going to be making all of this private and just kind of look at the data and
Dude,
see if we're ever going to do
I don't
BB28
care.
again.
Just get to
Is
the
it a seasonal
commentary.
thing? Can it be a permanent sub-brand? Are we ever even going to do it again? But all you got to care about right now is that all of it's available at BeautifulBastard.com. Links in the description. Definitely get in on it. But like I said,
How
let's jump
long are
into
you
those
going to
comments.
wrap
Right, in
this
those
up?
comments, there was
Okay.
understandably a lot of focus on that Donald Trump interview, especially on the part of due process and is it your job to uphold the Constitution, and him going, I don't know. With Will Atkinson, for example, saying, I don't know is an acceptable answer if you're asked, what do you want for dinner? Not if you're asked, should the president follow the laws that the country was founded upon? What reality even is this anymore? To which I say, Will, this isn't reality. You're in a coma. Please wake up. You also had Cameron Hawkins saying, I'm not a lawyer, is essentially saying, I know what I'm doing is wrong. I just don't know the legal gray area lingo at the moment to brainwash my
I
Also,
normally
saying
don't
those
watch
comments
these
was gonna be
comments at the end
constructive
because
conversation
so
around
many
the
of them are
Hendrick
brain dead.
situation. With the
But-
it takes, like, imagine harassing
Alright.
a child and then claiming to be the victim and making money from it. We're truly living in a Black Mirror episode. Along with openly saying a 5-year-old is acting like a racial slur and getting support behind it really
Is he
shows
gonna
how
show
bad people
anything
are.
from
And
the
this is
other
with
side?
Matthew saying, it's difficult to express in words how disheartening it is to see how much support the woman in the first story received. As much as some people may want to believe that racism is a part of the past, this, among other things currently happening in our country, goes to show that it is clearly still alive and well. But then finally
Yes,
today,
we
I'll
know.
end with
Obama
these two
brought it
comments.
back.
One, reading 31 seconds in and seeing it's going to be a heavy show with a lot of stories that will tick me off. Hi, Phil. How are you doing? And the low-stake chess news was really funny to me as an outsider, but I'd really rather hear about that than another horrific event happening in the world. And so with those, I'll start by saying I'm kind of okay. Like, kind of like most everyone else when I look to the state of things and the news.
I
and
don't think
everything.
you're
It's
okay, Phil.
draining,
You're
it's
falling off the
exhausting.
deep end.
Also, it's my job, so, like, I'm rewarded for being
I'll finish by saying we're done, Phil. You're getting so biased that I honestly can't trust to get any kind of fair news reporting from you anymore. You're just as bad as CNN or Fox at this point. I don't want to hear anything you have to say. I'm just going to get my news from Twitter, because there, at least you have a bunch of idiots yelling at each other, and you're going to get both sides because some stupid fuck has the most insane opinion and is going to have a little nugget of truth in the weird bullshit. It's so frustrating that I gotta watch this tomorrow. I saw this on Twitter. A fucking dead animal was in his ceiling in his attic so long that it fell through his ceiling, which I think is hilarious. I think I tweeted about him being the Goblin King or something like that. Midget Cal, you back yet, buddy? How long does it take your PC to restart over there? Alright, where is this? Alright. I'll send you a message, bro. I am absolutely beat if you're not back. If you are back, I hope you hear it. But let me get this thing started. So, where is it? This is gotta be my shortest one ever. We're going to raid my good friend Snow Ninja. I am absolutely 100% insanely exhausted and still covered in mud. So, of course, they do an ad break right as soon as I start the fucking raid. Gotta love Twitch for the ads that interrupt my damn content. I just... Alright. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not, because I can't see the ad interface anymore since the raid interface is up. But there are the socials. If you enjoyed the content, please don't forget to follow. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead, drop that like and subscribe, or dislike if you didn't like it. We're going to go ahead and raid my friend Snow Ninja. There is the basic raid command. There's the raid command if you're a sub. I'm going to go take a shower, get some sleep, and I'll be back tomorrow. I need to do some grocery shopping, but that's it, I think. We got a lot of work done today, so grocery shopping and putting that away is the prize. And I kept talking through the raid, so it just randomly cut me off, which is fucking awesome.